I remember a time where you got the lower class, the middle class, the upper class. Then you got the elites. Now it's lower class, which is poor, and to me it's becoming poor and the rich. That's it. There's no more middle class. There's no more none of that. Middle class is out the way. What we dealing with right now is a separation. A separation. You ain't finna get in the middle and be like, okay, you good, you comfortable. It ain't finna be like that. Either you rich or you poor. Or you po, like they say down south. Or you po. It's just like, man, what is the world coming to? Why is these things happening? Why are we going through these things? Like, I make this video because I'm speaking for everybody in America. Like, we feeling it right now. After COVID, it's like, man, things got out of hand, folks. Like, things getting out of hand. You better be on your P's and Q's at all times. All that middle class is not considered poor. I know y'all don't like me saying the word poor, but it is. Like, it's poorness. All the immigrants coming over, they coming to take the jobs that you too lazy don't want to do. You don't want to take the pay for them jobs, so guess what? The immigrants coming over here, they taking them jobs. They like, hey, shoot, they don't want to do it, I do it. Because the country that they come from, they ain't making nothing. They ain't getting nothing. So they come over here and it's like luxury to them. Until they get really, really settled in. And they start saying, man, I can't do like I did in my country, make money and sit back and relax like that. I got to make a substantial amount of money. And if I don't pay this, they're going to do this. They're going to kick me out my house. I don't really own a house here. I have to pay taxes on this crib every year. After I paid it off. Even with my car, I still got to pay insurance. I got to get my tag, registration, all that. So, you know, middle class is getting out the way. Middle class is finna be out of here. All these technology is changing. These jobs, y'all get these jobs, thinking these jobs because y'all frown upon the people who self-employed. Oh, you better get you a job. Y'all think these jobs gonna be here, gonna save you. The robots, AI, they finna come and take your job.
Shalom. I would like to give all honor, glory, and praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah Kodash. I would like to give double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Salutations to all you sister Akim, pushing this word across the four corners of the world. Just another news update through the spirit, the power, and the vibration of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. And I have an article from activistpost.com, and the title says, "This is the weapon that is being used to destroy America's middle class." And this article was published on April the 16th, 2024. And it says, the middle class in the U.S. has been steadily shrinking, and the gap between the ultra-wealthy and the rest of us has grown to absurd proportions. But it wasn't always this way. When I was growing up in the 1980s, it seemed like almost everyone was middle class. Of course, there were wealthy people and poor people in the 1980s too. But the vast majority of the population was comfortably somewhere in the middle. Sadly, things have changed so much since that time. Today, most of the people that I know are struggling. According to a report that was just released, in all 50 states, it now takes an income of more than $100,000 in order for a family of 4 to live the American dream. And as I quote from time to time from the late comedian George Carlin, as he stated, it's called the American dream because you have to be asleep in order to believe it. And these proudful Americans, including 2/3 of our people, were sold a falsehood by the hierarchy of Esau Edom, which are the international bankers in today's time, that are intentionally forcing these economic straits upon these American people. And it says right here, a new report from Go Banking Rates used that framework to analyze how much money a family of 2 adults and 2 children would need in each state to own a home, a car, and a pet. The report tallied estimated annual essential expenses for such a family and then doubled that figure. Using that framework, Go Banking Rates found that all 50 states require more than $100,000 annual income, according to the report, with 38 states needing more than $140,000. Is your family bringing in more than $100,000 a year? If not, the American dream is not for you. Sorry. Our leaders purposely pursued policies that they knew would cause inflation. And when new money enters the system, most of it tends to flow into the hands of those at the top of the economic food chain. So the ultra wealthy have been doing very well in this economic environment, but high inflation is absolutely eviscerating all the rest of us. At this point, it takes the average U.S. household an extra $1,069 per month just to purchase the same goods and services that it did 3 years ago. Inflation is once again gaining steam, forcing the average American to shell out a lot more money for everyday necessities. The typical U.S. household needed to pay $227 more a month in March to purchase the same goods and services it did 1 year ago because of still high inflation. According to calculations from Moody's Analytics chief economist Mark Zandi shared with Fox Business, Americans are paying on average $784 more each month compared with the same time 2 years ago and $1,069 more compared with 3 years ago, before the inflation crisis began. What we are witnessing is the collapse of the middle class. And as you should know, the middle class plays a very significant role within a nation's economic growth. Like the middle class of a nation is like the representative of the overall economic health. And when a nation has a good middle class, it provides a stable consumer base that drives product investment, which is economic growth. And again, due to this controlled economic demolition that the hierarchy of Esau Edom is placing upon these powerful Americans, it's really targeting the American middle class and causing them to be more financially stressed, and now they are facing the worst standard of living ever. And the crazy thing about that, these Americans haven't seen anything yet because it's going to get much worse than this. So it says right here, what we are witnessing is the collapse of the middle class. And it's not necessarily a financial collapse just by chance. It's more so intentional and controlled. First and foremost, due to biblical prophecy, and also for the elites on the left-hand side to get rid of this American dollar and to transition this international monetary system into a digital currency paradigm, which all ties into biblical prophecies. So it says right here, the cost of living has been rising faster than incomes have been, and that is putting an extraordinary amount of financial stress on U.S. households. And the scriptures goes into about the burden of Egypt. And this is Isaiah 19 verse 1. And as you can see from the heading, message to Egypt. And the modern day Egypt is referring to America. So the burden of Egypt. Behold, the Lord Yahweh rideth upon a swift cloud and shall come into Egypt, and the idols of Egypt should be moved in his presence, and the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of it. So going back to the point right here, the burden of Egypt. And we just read within the article how more Americans are financially stressing out due to these draconian measures or these economic straits that the hierarchy of Esau Edom is intentionally placing upon them. So that burden goes into all of that pressure, that anxiety and stress that's all being weighed down upon them. And it's really starting to affect their way of living. And through the spirit, that's why I do that series from time to time, how the American struggle is real. And how you have more Americans coming out to the forefront via social media, and they are complaining about their financial situation, or the leadership thereof for the most part. All right, so back to the article. What we are witnessing is the collapse of the middle class. The cost of living has been rising faster than incomes have been, and that is putting an extraordinary amount of financial stress on U.S. households. For example, the cost of auto insurance has risen more than 22% over the past 12 months. The cost of auto insurance rose 2.6% in March, bringing the total annual gain to 22.2%, the fastest yearly rate on record. When compared with the beginning of 2021, before the inflation crisis began, motor vehicle insurance is more than 50% more expensive. Housing costs have been increasing at an even faster pace. If you can believe it, the average monthly mortgage payment on a newly purchased home has risen by 96% in just 4 years. The real estate firm Zillow reports that since January 2020, the monthly mortgage payment on a typical U.S. home has nearly doubled. It's up 96% in just 4 years. According to Zillow, a typical buyer will now pay nearly $2,200 a month with a 10% down payment, meaning home ownership now costs well above the 30% of median income that was once thought to equate to affordable housing costs in America. Home ownership is now out of reach for a huge chunk of the population. Needless to say, that isn't a good thing. Why aren't the American people more upset about all of this? And that's a very good question to pose. Like, why aren't these Americans out there protesting, rioting about the leadership thereof with this so-called President Joe Biden? And for the ones of us who are in the know, we know that presidents are selected, not elected, which means that your votes do not count. And this guy, whoever he is, Joe Biden, he's playing a character role that was assigned to him by the higher ups of Esau Edom. Because you have a thing you can look on YouTube search called gaffe, which is spelled Gaffe. And a gaffe is a social clumsy error, like a blunder or a blooper, which is why you be seeing Joe Biden stumbling upon his words during his speeches, just saying crazy, outlandish things, like tripping all over the place. And that character goes back to a character that came out within a movie called Hot Shots, that came out like in 1991, starring Charlie Sheen. And it was a goofy president on that movie called President Thomas or Tub Benson. Like, he was very clumsy, always joking, not being serious. And I believe through the spirit that that character that we see Joe Biden is currently in, it derives back to that President Tom Benson on that movie Hot Shots. And as William Shakespeare stated, all the world's a stage, and how the men and women are merely players exiting on the stage. So this role that Joe Biden is currently playing, like forgetting all his words, tripping all over the place, and the list goes on. And this is who you silly Americans so-called voted for and raised in an elevated position and to be a representation of the most world's dominant country, America. And you would think that these people would be in uproars, rioting and causing all types of chaos and anarchy within the streets of America. And that shows you through the spirit how these Americans, including 2/3 of our people, are drinking off that Babylonian wine. It's like they're in a trance. And that takes me to the prophecy within Isaiah 60:1. And the point is in verse 2, arise, shine, for thy light is come, and the glory of the Lord Yahweh Bahashem Yahushua is risen upon thee. And that light is risen upon those who are endowed with the gift of the Holy Spirit. And that's referring to the elect of the nation of Israel, which represents the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of Yahweh Bahashem Yahushua via the Holy Scriptures. Verse 2, for behold, the darkness should cover the earth, and gross darkness the people. And that's due to Esau's westernization, which ultimately goes into that Babylonian wine when you read within the Scriptures, that has spiritually intoxicated these nations, especially these nations within America. But the Lord Yahweh Bahashem Yahushua shall rise upon thee, and his glory shall be seen upon thee. And again, that represents the elect of the nation of Israel, as it's stated within Isaiah 33:6, how wisdom and knowledge should be the stability of our times. And also linking up with Isaiah the 24th chapter, how there should be a crying for wine in the streets. which again represents the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of the scriptures. That's really endowed upon the servants, the prophets. And that also links with Zechariah, the 8th chapter, how it goes into how the people are going to try to hold on to the skirt of those who are a Jew. And saying how we heard that the Lord Yahweh Bahashem Yahushua is with you. So that ties in right here with the latter part of Isaiah 60:2, how the Lord Yahweh Bahashem Yahushua shall rise upon thee, and his glory shall be seen upon thee. And that starts with the wisdom and knowledge. But backing up that point we just read within the article, the vast majority of these Americans are in total gross darkness. And if they really believe the case that this guy Joe Biden is really forgetting, stumbling all over his words, falling all over the place, and not being a true upstanding leader of this American country, then these people should be out there protesting and rioting within the streets. All right, so back to the article, and it says again, home ownership is now out of reach for a huge chunk of the population. Needless to say, that isn't a good thing. Why aren't the American people more upset about all of this? In a desperate attempt to maintain a middle-class standard of living, many Americans are piling up enormous amounts of debt, which ties in with the prophecy within Habakkuk, the 2nd chapter, how he was going to laden himself with thick clay. And that goes into that debt. Like most of these Americans are surviving on credit cards due to this credit-based system. But the negative effects it's causing upon these American people is placing them more into debt, which is placing more anxiety, pressure, stress upon the backs of these American consumers, especially the American middle class, which plays a vital role with a country's economic development. So right here it says, according to CNBC, some economists believe that debt growth has become a substitution for income growth. Economists have suggested that debt growth has become a substitution for income growth. Student loan debt reached an all-time high of $1.77 trillion in the first quarter of 2023, and Americans collectively owe $1.13 trillion on their credit cards as of the fourth quarter of 2023. This debt can have a ripple effect, especially when entire generations are starting their adulthoods with thousands of dollars in debt. And I'm going to jump on down. If Americans really understood what our politicians in Washington and the experts at the Federal Reserve were doing to us, there would be massive protests in the streets right now. And I want to say there was a quote from George H.W. Bush. He stated, if the American people knew what we have done, then they, as the American politicians, would be hung up on street lampposts. But the true ones who are rising up for the Most High against the evildoers are really the elect of the nation of Israel, which again are the servants, the prophets, who have that testimony of Yahushua. And by all means, it goes against the grain of this American society, or this image of the beast system. These days, a lot of Americans that have actually retired are now heading back to work due to the rapidly rising cost of living. And that's a damn shame. Hope Murray is one of those people. Hope Murray retired in 2013 after a 50-year career that ranged from game show producer to Hollywood party planner to casino executive. She settled into a life of golf, game nights, and pickleball in her San Diego community, her daughter living nearby. Then things got more expensive. Gas was nearly $5 a gallon. Medication costs were adding up. The grocery bill was increasing. Can you imagine going back to work when you are 80 years old? This is what she had to do, and now she spends her retirement years handing out samples at Costco. And as you can see through the spirit, these American people are finished. And for the most part, a lot of these Americans truly gave up, because they see that this American dream is unreachable. It's likened unto a thing in the past. And as it's stated within Ecclesiastes, the 12th chapter, how those that look out of the windows be darkened. So therefore, it's no hope for America. And this great whore, America, also known as Babylon the Great, is going to have a very rough and hurtful fall, because it has been esteemed for so long. But the point of this lesson through the Spirit how Yahweh Bahashem Yahushua is using his left-hand vessel of dishonor, these Edomites, and more so the nobility of Esau Edom, to systematically engineer these economic straits upon these American people and mainly target the so-called middle class of America. And again, which play a very significant role within the economic growth or development of a nation. But the Lord Yahweh Bahashem Yahushua is doing what they are doing for their words to be fulfilled. And that's biblical prophecies. Which takes me right to Job 12 verse 9. Who knoweth not in all these that the hand of the Lord Yahweh Bahashem Yahushua had wrought this. And another word for wrought goes into work. So these things are transpiring around the world. All these international conflicts, the rumors of wars, the pending engineered financial collapse. It's all a part of the counsel of Yahweh Bahashem Yahushua to fulfill their words, which are faithful and true. And that takes me right to 2 Ezra 15 verse 1. Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord. And the Lord's people are referring to the nation of Israel, which are you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Hispanics, and Native Americans in today's time. And he will put in thy mouth, via Luke, the 1st chapter, how he spake by the mouth of his holy prophets, who are the messengers of Yahweh Bahashem Yahushua in these latter times. Verse 2, and cause them, which are the prophecies, to be written in paper via the Holy Bible or the Holy Scriptures, for they are faithful and true. So therefore, everything that we see transpiring around the world, as it's stated within 2 Ezra, the 9th chapter, in the 1st verse, about measure the times diligently in itself. So what you see that's transpiring within current events, you filter it out with the Holy Scriptures. And through the gift of the Holy Spirit, you can clearly see how these biblical prophecies are being fulfilled. And we can see through the Spirit when the nobility of Esau Edom came with one of their weapons, hence the so-called pandemic. It was very overwhelming for a lot of these small American businesses, especially these small moms and pop stores. And a lot of them wasn't financially able to bounce back. And again, they represent the American middle class, who the hosts of the high ones are mainly targeting at. And that fulfills a major upcoming biblical prophecy. And that takes me right to Revelation 13 verse 15. And that's referring to the nobility of Esau Edom, the ones that Yahweh Bahashem Yahushua set up, and to intentionally cause this economic control demolition. So therefore, everything can be transitioned into a digital currency system. So again, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak, and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Verse 16, and he caused it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. And the word mark within this text goes into the Greek word karama, which goes into an imprinted mark or stamp. Hence the micro C hip. But notice, as it's stated right here, both small and great, rich and poor. It states nothing about the so-called middle class, and who the powers that be are mainly targeting the so-called middle class right now due to these economic straits. So therefore they can be wiped out. And that's only the working of Yahweh Bahashem Yahushua, as we just read within Job 12 and 9, to fulfill his will. So with that, hopefully you all was edified, you all stay strong, keep pushing forward. Shalom.